Good morning, everybody. For the sake of John here, who's videoing for 79, thank you for coming this morning. This is an off-site Board of Education meet this morning as we do our capital projects and have a look at the preview for next year. And as we go around, you might be just updated on a couple of that are in transition either from last year or in a certain stage, stage 1 or stage 2, as we move forward for next year. But thank you for joining us. It's a wonderful morning for Christmas morning for some football. So we wish the kids well before this afternoon, and we look forward to hearing good news this afternoon. But thank you so much for coming this morning. We'll just take a wee opportunity to look at some of these projects. And thank you to Kevin and his staff for being here. We have Dr. Delson was right there beside me from the middle school. You'll have a wee opportunity just to see, meet the principals, and then go through the projects. It's not a long list for this particular year, so we might be happy about that. But thank you. With that, I'll just do a quick introduction to Jill to lead us off the meeting. Thank you.
Great. With that, I'd like to call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order. It is Saturday, December 9th, and we're at Middlesex, and off we go on our tour. Thank you all so much for being here. Kevin.
Hi everybody, for those that don't know me, Kevin Monrett, Facilities, and we're going to start our tour at middle school as we typically do. And if you would, on your way in, I'm sure you noticed the two vehicles that are parked right next to the entrance. Those are our replacement fleet vehicles for the year. The first one is a 21-year-old green pickup truck that is well past its useful life. And the other one on the far side is one of our Suburbans for our out-of-district placement that's has over 100,000 miles and starting to experience some mechanical concerns. A little tricky to see from the rotunda, but maybe if you take a peek outside, you'll look at the facade of the old section of the building. At the very top, there's a chimney that's wrapped in mesh and steel. As we did our facade repair last year, our architects noted that that chimney was in a deteriorated condition. So we have secured it, embraced it, so that it can be replaced as part of this summer's construction cycle. Last year we had a project where we did some brick repointing and some corrective measures, and that's when we noticed that that was a concern. So moving right along, we're going to go down the hallway and show you the roof. Before we do, last year at this time we had also had a project for fire alarm and panel replacement. That's that nice illuminated board next to you. That was done this past summer. All new fire alarm system, new strobe, new alarms. So that thing is compliant. Fire alarms will all put out of an issue anymore.
Kevin, can I just ask, is there anything to be done with the vehicles? Is there any value left in them, or keep the plow, or what happens?
Yeah, so we actually just made note that the tires are in really good shape, so we're going to try and repurpose those onto one of our vehicles. The process is we offer them to the town first. If they have a use for them, they have in the past accepted some of our vehicles. If they don't, then they get put into the auction block with some of the other municipal trucks, and they get put up for auction.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so we're going to move along to the classrooms in the back of the building. All right, so as we spoke about in the rotunda, if you would like, we've opened up some classroom doors. You can take a look inside. You can see the new devices for the fire alarm system mounted inside the classrooms, new strobes, new horns, so that the kids can see and hear all the fire alarms that are about to go off.
Okay.
All right. The next project up is to add classrooms to the chiller that is on the roof above the library. The chiller is about 2 years old, and it is short cycling. And what that means is that the chiller is turning off in the middle of the summer instead of running, which they're designed to do, because there's not enough load or heat capacity for the chiller to cool. So with a big unit like that, you want it to run consistently. So the project in hand here is to add 4 classrooms onto the chiller to increase load. This does a couple things. It'll give us extra life on the chiller, and it'll also help get rid of some of these window air conditioner units that are very noisy and cumbersome for the teachers to deal with. So, any question on that? We can bring you up there and show you the rooms if you'd like to see them, but it's basically just 4 classrooms without air conditioning. So it's really not much to see.
So the rooms presently don't have air conditioning, or they have the windows?
They have the window units.
Is it more efficient when we switch over to using the chiller versus the probably doesn't make a big difference.
Probably not enough to quantify, but it's more along the lines of saving the life of the equipment that we installed on the roof.
Are these, in the past, because of certain special ed needs, we did move around air conditioning to meet certain student needs. Are these 4 rooms simply because they're probably the most effective to add to it, or are they used for special purposes?
That's a good question. So it just so happens some of them are for special ed instruction, but the driving force was it's the easier route to tie in instead of, making a big mess throughout the building. So it just happens to be adjacent. Yep.
And you probably have talked about this before, but which of the floors here do not have air conditioning still?
Sure. So all the offices, all the classrooms, the library, the main office, they all have air conditioning on a number of different systems. The hallways, the gyms, the cafeteria, the large common areas have no air conditioning. So these hallways tend to be very muggy in the warm months, but cooler once you get into the classroom and you're attending.
I thought at one point, and maybe this is dated, but the 3rd floor did not have air conditioning, but the 1st floor and 2nd floor did, or did that get resolved?
Right, it got resolved in the sense that we now have window units in all the classrooms throughout the building and the offices, but not these common areas, staircases and such. You're welcome.
And so the classrooms being added is just running ductwork to those classrooms?
Right, so there'll be a ceiling cassette unit, there'll be some plumbing involved, some electricity, and then it'll get tied back into the chiller on the roof.
I gotta imagine the chiller is more effective or efficient electrically than the window units. So,
I would
not
imagine.
significant that it's gonna return any investment, but still.
Yeah, I would agree, I would think running the chiller would be more efficient. We do have it tied into a building management system so that it has set points and it will stop running it at certain degrees, whereas a window unit, if you leave it on and nobody remembers to press the button, it will just constantly run.
During our orientation, you mentioned that the state had some programs where they would help fund, install like energy efficient HVAC units or whatever to schools. Is that, I know we've missed a window for that for this. Is there
That's right.
another opportunity coming up for that?
Yeah, there were, and we actually attended a webinar it was about a month ago about the new package of grants that are coming out for HVAC. So, when it comes to the larger scale projects, this one wouldn't qualify because of the dollar threshold, but we can certainly go for those type of grants from the state. All right. Last item for the middle school is the oil tank monitoring system. We're actually going to leave the building out through the bus loop so we can show you the oil tank. This summer we conducted a replacement over at the high school, which spurred a few questions about our other existing oil tanks. The tank itself is fine. It passes inspection every year. However, the monitoring system, which tells us the fuel level, the monitoring of the various, the brine levels, the water, and the infills, that is having issues and needs to be replaced because right now we're flying blind, so to speak. So while we do pass annual testing with the tanks, the system that helps us keep an eye on it needs to be replaced. The tank itself is not due for replacement for about another 10 years, so this computer system will help us out quite a bit. All right?
Once we actually finish with that last visit, I think we're gathering at the high school at the auditorium, is that correct?
That's right.
So if you know where most of you know where the auditorium is, if you don't, just where the rest of the cars are, we'll start down there instead of the main office.
So if you would, follow us, we'll show you the oil tank outside in the parking lot, and then we'll make our way to the high school. We're just showing everybody the oil tanks here in the parking lot. Those two covers behind me are the tank. It's the big one's 10,000 gallons. But it's tough to visualize and explain that it's essentially the computer system that keeps an eye on the tank. All right, with that we can head on over to the high school. So this year in the capital plan we have phase 2 of the auditorium reimagined, if you will. We can go inside and chat, but phase 1 was essentially a sound upgrade, speaker systems, controls, and phase 2 is the lighting component, switching over our very old and outdated incandescents to LEDs, which we actually rent from various firms because we don't have enough lights of our own. So this portion of the project also has stage curtains that are either needed or currently rented that we don't own. Colleen Thompson, who should be here momentarily, can also speak to the project, but we can go on in and start taking a look. All right, so here we are in the theater. Not part of the project, but also worth noting, Jeff Adams and our terrific IT department has actually also installed extra wireless access points so that when you're in the theater, you have cell phone and Wi-Fi capabilities, which was kind of a dead zone before, so that's just another added bonus. Also would like to make mention of the wonderful donation of the video wall, which is currently on order through the Darien Foundation. The video wall is a very high-tech LED screen that will have the capability to fly, to use the industry term, meaning it could be lowered for a presentation, illuminated with all sorts of virtual backgrounds, but then if you don't want it, it could also be sent up into the rafters through a counterweight system that will help the theater folks operate it pretty seamlessly. The LED wall is in production. The structural engineers have evaluated our steel and have signed off that we can handle such a system, so we're really excited to get that going, but it probably won't happen until well after the new year. Any questions on the theater project?
Can I just say first, actually, this is one of the events that happened this week, which is the technical difficulty of some of this stuff is just like, I'm the naked ear. For me, I'm not a musician, but you can tell just the level of performance that they have. This is just I really appreciate everybody's support for the arts. It goes a long way in our school. The kids can excel anything they like, including the arts. But there's a tremendous support for the arts program for our kids and for the community at large. So it's just really appreciate. I want everybody to know that. Our kids do a top-notch, excellent job, and having a facility that facilitates that is just wonderful. There's a couple of, if you look up here, confidence monitors and stuff. That's not just for the superintendent for convocation. That's for when they're in the pit too. That the orchestra in the pit can actually take directions and see up here and so on and so forth. So it's just terrific. That there are some curtains that need to be replaced or added. I'm not the expert in this, but there's certain levels of curtains goes down, but at the side it doesn't cover enough, so we need another set to sort of complement what we have right here at the moment. So those are the new speakers right there. They're not hooked up just yet on either side. It's just such a wonderful facility, so thank you.
You also talk about the panels in the back, along the sides, the acoustical panels. Aren't those new too?
So I believe those are not new, maybe a few years old, but they are movable acoustical panels that can help be designed for different performances. Obviously, we're set up for music at the moment, and they're on wheels, so they can be pivoted around the stage and tucked away in the wings as needed.
Do you ever use the auditorium for classrooms?
Yes, all the time.
Can I just add a plug for the Holiday Spectrum concert, which I think is the 19th? It's all of the music, the high school music groups performing together. We haven't done it since before the pandemic, but my family used to come before we had kids at the high school involved in the music program. Anyone who wants to get in the spirit, it's a great opportunity.
You gotta get here early.
You do have to get here early.
For that one, you gotta get here early.
Are there any other questions about the theater? All right, with that, we're going to go up through the courtyard and then go in to see the library.
May I just add that we do have ACTs here this morning?
Oh, boy.
So we're just going to be a little quiet when we're going to the second floor, but we'll go to the library first.
Okay, sounds good. All right, this way.
So listen, if you don't mind, just upon consideration, we'll talk about here, and we'll go out to the stadium, but I'm just wondering, just upon consideration, given the quietness that's needed up there, Kevin can talk about the partition if you give the kids a peace and quiet, just.
Perfect.
We can envision it.
Okay, there you go. Thank
All
you.
right, so we're going to start off, we're in the library, obviously, and we have 2 projects to talk about. Had our wonderful custodial staff set out some of the damaged student desks that we've been encountering the past year.
Don't sit on those.
Don't sit on those. So as you can see, the furniture is original to when the school was constructed, and over the past year or 2, we've noticed an increase in breakage and deteriorating condition. So there's a request in this capital budget to replace all the student furniture in the classrooms. So I just want to give you a small idea of what we're working with day in and day out. Number 2, the library itself. So upon consideration, we've decided not to go with the full-scale library renovation project, but in this year, we want to address some of the key features that we think need to be done sooner rather than later. Number 1, probably the most glaring, is the carpet. Also original to when the building was built. It's extremely worn. There's no more resiliency. Some of the staining and the scarring is permanent and is in desperate need of replacement. Number 2, the furnishings. I don't know how many folks have been here while the school is in session, but this place is packed from the minute school starts to the minute it closes and then beyond. The library stacks themselves, some do not have the ability to be maneuverable, so they are just stuck in place, which does not allow the space to be flexible. There's really no way to present or have group settings because we are very rigid in our furnishings. So speaking with the librarian, one of her biggest asks was to have bookshelves on wheels that could be pivoted and maneuvered about. So that's in your request today as well. And before we do any sort of carpet replacement, I need to address a leak that has been nagging us for some time in the corner over there past the copy machine. It's a foundation structural type leak that we need to do some digging and figure out how to get it to stop. So I want to make sure we hit those in order to make sure that we're doing a proper job for the space and the students.
Can you just remind us, Kevin, we bumped the rug project twice, I think, 2 years?
I believe so. I think under my predecessor it was bumped because of cost considerations, and we're pretty confident we can get it this time around.
When was the school built?
We opened in 2005,
5.
so we're in year 19.
So the Libraries Reimagined project for DHS, MMS, and Tokenie, I noticed they're not in the 5-year capital plan at all. They're totally off the table, and you're just going to do some renovations here and there?
Just for now, yes. It doesn't mean to say that those projects aren't going to resurface again.
Okay.
That's not the case necessarily, right? It's just for now, this is just what we're doing.
There'll be a bigger look at the middle school, the high school, and at that time, we can also talk about the Tokenie Library. But the priority right now is to get through through HHR. And then once that gets up and running, we can then do a building study on
Middlesex,
MMS, on Middlesex first. That's the next priority. And take a look at what's really needed in the building, and the library will be a part of that look.
So are we changing the cap into capital, or are we changing to some more better material?
So no, it would be a carpet tile material. We prefer that in the facilities world because if a piece is broken or stained, we could just pop up one specific tile and have some extras on hand. This is broadloom, which is huge 12-foot sections that have to be rolled down and tacked, and it's obviously lived a good life.
Kevin, can you talk about just the replacement cycle now on the desk?
Sure. So in my operating budget, I have a small furniture line, and we use it throughout the district, not just the high school, to replace items as needed. The high school's been getting the lion's share of that funding because of what we're encountering. So this ask is to replace in its entirety the desks in the classrooms.
And any good desk can be reused elsewhere, or?
Yeah, probably the middle school.
Okay.
So, just out of curiosity, we're talking capital projects, but usually things like desks and that end up in your equipment line. So is this an equipment line budget item, or is this a capital project?
So in the capital, there is a good deal of equipment lines, the trucks.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the desks in the past.
I think he's talking about capital budget versus operating budget.
Operating
Oh, I see.
budget. So in the past, things like desks ended up in your equipment line in the budget. It doesn't matter if Peter or Paul, I'm just curious where we're seeing.
Right. I think operationally, we do carry that small furniture line year to year. for as needed, but I guess because of the magnitude and the dollar threshold needed to get us up to speed at the school, it triggered the capital request.
Just, I did a quick look. What's the estimate on these 1,000 desks that we're replacing?
I believe it's $100,000 is the request in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just while you're here, by the way, it's not capital, but this is used for all, the library's packed, right? And used for all different types of activities and learning. From the simple ones, like where kids come in and do tactile activities and crossword puzzles and so on and so forth, to chess and everything in between. It's just eventually you'll have to look at this library, right? Just for the function. Definitely we'll have to do that. But for now, some of those areas down there are just like literally embarrassing to start the school year this year with, in my opinion, in terms of just the state of the place. So we have to do this just for now.
Any other questions about the library in particular? All right.
If you want to take 2 seconds, go off schedule. Only because we're here, right? Literally right across the hallway is the Wellness Centre. You've maybe heard about it, and you might just want to peek your head in and then where we're going.
Well, we're going to talk about the walls upstairs real quick because we're not going to go upstairs and disturb the ABCTs. So directly above these staircases on either side, we have 4 classrooms, essentially 2 very large rooms, and each one on either side has an operable wall between the 2. Those walls could be opened to make them 2 big rooms, or most of the time closed for smaller instruction. Those operable walls have a number of health issues. The track systems are bent, the gears and the cranks skip and miss, and those walls are becoming a bit of a security issue. So we spent a lot of effort repairing them this summer, but they do need to be replaced. In addition to just a simple replacement, there's a bit of an air gap between where the wall meets the window, and when teacher A is in this classroom, teacher B and those students can actually hear the lesson. So we're going to do our best to shore it up, get rid of any air gaps and mitigate the noise going from one space to the other.
Do we use the spaces as the big spaces often enough to need the open functionality?
All the time.
Okay.
Mr. Keeler and his team would be very upset with me if I didn't advocate for him because he's had to put up with that for quite some time and he's been a trooper, so
Those are the
they
rooms,
really,
those are the rooms that teach the American history and American literature. And so their plan is to open the doors periodically, share lessons, close the doors for separate lessons.
Any questions about operable walls? All right, so we can hit the Wellness Center, and then the plan is to go through the building, through the first floor, so that we can have a look out over the track that was recently completed, and then also speak to 2 capital projects that we have staged out there for you to see. Okay, right this way.
So I think you've heard about the Wellness Center. We have a new position this year, someone who is manning the Wellness Center all day long. It's open to our students at any time. We had the animals from the Nature Center here this week. You'll have some of those photos in your DHS happenings coming up. It really has become a very warm and accepting place for our students, and we celebrate it. So,
What do you use the screen for? What are you showing?
we have a lot of animal cams on there, fireplace music, and anything that is calming, relaxing. Capybaras are very popular. A very large rodent, in case you didn't know. So, yeah, there you see there's a lot of different spaces and activities and hot cocoa.
Ellen, what was this before?
This was known as the chill zone
Okay.
for a long time. We used it for student government meetings in the mornings, and this is the best use we've ever seen of this space, for sure.
How has the layout changed between the chill zone and this?
I think just having all the activities and being open with someone here all the time to welcome students, and she's planning programming, and it's really been a great success.
How well utilized is this now that the hours are expanded?
I would say between 150 and 200 students a day are coming through.
Is the staff full-time for the next meeting?
Staffed full-time. Yeah.
And we just,
kids on days you have dogs?
Sorry?
A lot more kids on days you have dogs.
Absolutely. And snakes, which we had this week, right?
And then we just approved the gift from the DHSPA,
Yeah,
right?
so
for
there's
some
new furniture coming here.
coming in, which
And
is
we're gonna
great.
actually take some of this furniture over to the library to fill up some of the space there.
Nice.
So I won't spend too much time here since I'm off script a wee bit, but I just thought it would be nice for you to see, committee members to actually see here. Perfect. All right, folks.
Now we're going to go out to the
Field.
to the field. All right, so here we are. We're at the track, and as our guys are loading up the football equipment for today's game, three things we want to talk about here. One of the mats, which Chris Manfredoni can speak to, pole vault mats, I believe. They are aged out, worn, torn, in desperate need of replacement. Number two is our custodial equipment. It's called the Polar Track. It's about 12 or 13 years old at this point, and we use it to clear the snow from the sidewalks during snow events, the plaza, courtyard, etc. So that's in the capital budget as well. And last but not least, we also wanted to showcase our brand new track, which was completed in October and was really well done, although delayed a little bit due to manufacturing hiccups, but completed nonetheless.
That looks beautiful.
If there's any questions, we'll be...
Is that the same type of thing you need at Oxbridge too?
No, we went with something different at Oxbridge, something a little bit smaller. This is fully enclosed, heated, quite a bit more real estate here than Oxbridge. Oxbridge is kind of exposed to the elements, but it's a ride-on unit that will allow our guys to move faster than a traditional snowblower.
So look, just the pole vault mats, it's a 7-piece set of mats that will fit into the pole vault pit area, which kids will jump into. So this is just 2 of the sections you see here, but there's 5 more in the North Gym.
So you want to replace all 7?
You have to replace it. Yeah, it's a set.
And Chris, the high jump mat, is that okay
That's
still?
okay still, yep.
Okay.
These are at least 15 to 20 years old. Expectancy is probably 10 to 12 year life expectancy, so that's why you see this request in this year's budget.
Track looks great.
Track looks great. Yeah, track came out last year.
If you ever have the opportunity to take a walk on it, we went with the upgraded sandwich system, especially thanks to our friends at the Board of Finance. The sandwich system allows less impact on the joints and knees of our athletes. It's actually very noticeable even just walking on it, let alone running, so it's state of the art and we're very proud of the way it came out.
We talk about the durability also.
Sure.
Of the pig or the surface of it. Shows.
Yeah, the surface is an embedded, not acrylic, it's actually asphalt material, and the life expectancy is about 12 years with proper maintenance, so we'll do our best to keep it.
We could have gone with a cheaper.
Oh yeah, there was actually 2 versions cheaper than what we went with, and obviously all have different life expectancy and impact rating. We went with the better of the 3 options. All right, so if there's no other questions, we're going to go through the courtyard to the vehicles, and then we'll make our way to central office.
If you get the central services, if you get a wee spot at the lower lot, because we're going to just stay outside and look at the windows, and we're quickly on our way again. So don't be going over to the sports shop to buy Christmas presents. We won't be long.
All right, then, Chris, follow us this way.
We'll have one go both ways in the group.
All right, everybody, we're at Central Service Office Building, and directly behind me on the first floor, you'll see 3 white aluminum framed windows. The ask this year is to replace those 3. We had done the 2 on the lower level in the black aluminum last year out of necessity. Those were leaking pretty severely. We're trying to get ahead of these 3 so that they don't start leaking in the middle of board meetings. The ask also includes 1 window on the Leroy Avenue side, which you can't see from here, but that's one of the windows that goes into our finance office, which every time it rains we have leakage. Pretty simple project, and just one for this particular building.
But they match the other
Yes.
new ones below with the black.
That's exactly right. We'll make a match. The front won't. The front will be a wood frame, so totally different style altogether, but these 3 will be matched below.
And is there any other trick to this? I know it gets hot in there sometimes. If it's sunny, we don't glaze them or tint them. Is there anything that we
wood or
So it'll be a low E glazing, which helps mitigate some of the UVs that come through and hopefully doesn't heat the space. But you also recall the new HVAC system, which should keep up with the demand.
Right. We don't want to make that any harder than it has to be.
Exactly right. I think we'll be very comfortable in this space going forward. All right. So just the one project. We are ahead of schedule, but the last stop will be Tokenique Elementary School. See you in the field.
Morning again, thank you. Just getting the day a bit more beautiful by the school we visit, but thank you. And sorry for being getting a wee bit late here today for Tokenique. I'd like to introduce Ryan. Ryan Betts is the principal here, as most of you know.
Good morning, welcome everybody.
And I'll turn it over to Ryan and Rich.
Welcome. So at Tokenique, we only have 3 projects this year. We're starting outside because the first and foremost is the repaving of the staff lot and the bus loop. There is some curbing as well that needs to be replaced, but this is all original to when the building was constructed, and the cracks are getting bigger and deeper by the year, so it's time for it to go.
Yes. Would you just remind us when the building was completed?
This one was 08. Thank you.
Kevin, are you doing the paving here more on a cycle, or is it as needed?
So it's on a cycle. Last year, you'll recall, we paved the bus loop at Middlesex, and we are not doing any paving at the elementary. You dropped your hat. At the elementaries because of the HHR project. But this was next up on the list.
And the estimated cost for this?
You were going to ask me that. I want to say the budget is $380.
Gotcha.
And just to confirm that that's the bus loop?
Yes.
And this,
The bus
are
loop
we
is
calling
over
this the
there.
staff lot?
And this is the staff park.
Okay.
And parent drop off.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And that lot-ish sort of lot back there?
It is not part of the project.
Okay, thank you.
That's
On a different schedule.
yeah, that's mostly service access, some staff parking. 2 years ago, we did widen that access road. It was too narrow, and all the food service trucks are making significant ruts, so we've widened it to alleviate that problem.
Just out of curiosity, how many, we were just discussing this, how many spaces are in this lot?
Off the top of my head, I do not know. Sorry. No.
Well, we have about 100 staff on a daily basis, and then there's extra for parents, so more than that.
Say maybe 150, 130. Any questions on the paving?
Yeah, so Kevin, on the
Yes.
paving, so we're getting 15 years out of this. Doesn't the town does a 20-year cycle on roads, correct?
I don't know what the town does. I
Okay.
just know that this project had been identified in previous years as needing to be, and it just slid up to its appropriate spot this year in the capital plan. When we go into the building, we're going to take a look at one of the server rooms that houses our computer equipment. It's very cramped in there. We can kind of let everybody go single file in there. But essentially it's an air conditioning project to keep the computer equipment cool. It has stopped working. It needs to be upsized in order to cool all the additional servers we have added over the years. Otherwise we run the risk of damaging that very expensive computer equipment. And then after that we can talk about the oil tank system that we have here at Tokenique that also needs to be upgraded and repaired, excuse me.
Kevin, can you clarify? It stopped working now. Are we at risk of damaging the equipment now?
So it stopped working over the summer. It's completely failed with the compressor. We have turned off the heat to the adjacent staff room to help keep it as cool as possible. We leave the door open to allow air circulation, things of that nature. But it needs to not only be replaced, but we also have to upsize the electrical to feed the new unit. So it's quite a bit of work, and we have to do it when school's not in session.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have like fans going in the internal.
Correct.
What? Well, yeah, that's...
All right.
So, we have a couple breaks coming up. And again, I'm going to put you at a disadvantage by asking what the cost is, because we can always take things off cycle. And rather than having penny wise and pound foolish, since we do not want to replace the service that you have in there, and take capital requests from other things in the Board of Ed, What's the cost of doing that, and what's the time estimate for completing?
So I believe the cost for the project was in the $18,000 range.
Right.
The lead time on the equipment is minimal. It's pretty much standard equipment. So if we were to go off cycle, it would probably be something we could target for February break.
Yes, so noted. Thank you.
I'll speak to the board's finance and say that, I think it would have
And we
pay
have,
for it,
and
we pay for it out of our
contingency.
Yeah.
All right, so we can,
Yeah, let's think about it. Let's.
We just talked about.
All right, so with that, we'll go inside and let you take a look at the server room. This is staff lounge. The server room is attached to the closet. The AC unit's wall mounted, separate and aside from our heating and cooling system, because it obviously has to run in the winter time. Mr. Davis noted as well. So if anybody wants to take a look, the server room's in here. It's a little tight. The unit is mounted to the wall above the door on the left-hand side. All right, so as we noted, that unit does need to run 24/7 to keep the computer equipment cool. It does generate quite a bit of heat in there, so we were able to turn off the heat to the space because we don't need it. And last but not least is the oil tank. Tokenique still survives on oil. The monitoring system, similar to middle school, but to a lesser degree, does need some help. The exterior alarm and the interior panel need to be replaced. Short of having everybody go stand on top of an oil tank again, I figured we would just meet here and just chat about it. Any questions?
So these are strategically placed. But it is pretty appropriate because we represent all the town officials, community members, parents who support the school. So it's a good way to end. So I thank you for that. I hope you find it actually helpful. The board brought this process forward a little bit, the tour of the schools. I might give a wee bit of context, when we're not in the middle of it all, you actually have a reference back to what we were talking about a little bit, so I think that's probably a good thing. With that, I would thank Kevin and the principals, yourselves for attending today. It's very much appreciated in the holiday season. And we say, go blue, wave today. Keep an eye on the score. And I'll maybe turn it over to Jill if she wants to close the meeting, since it's official meeting.
Again, I'll just echo your thanks to everyone for being here this morning and to our school staff for taking time out of their mornings, and some of them who still have places to go. So thank you all. May I have a motion to adjourn? Julie, seconded by Katie. All those in favor, that is unanimous. Thank you all.